My name is Rex Jarrett. I'm the Director of Professional Programs here at UMBC, and today you are present for the UMBC Paws and Pivot webinar series for impacted federal workers and contractors. So today's session will be on future-proofing your career, AI and adaptability, and we're going to use this as a framework to reimagine ourselves as employees or as future job holders. Now, it's my new headshot. I took it 2 weeks ago. I'm pretty proud of it. So, it's my name and title, but moving on to why you all are here. Next month, we will have a follow-up event to this on the uncertainty, from uncertainty to opportunity, on developing a career resilience plan for 2026. So we're going to wrap up pretty much this year's series with getting folks skills and tools and the abilities or strategies to figure out where to move next inside their careers. And then this final session for the year is going to be about compiling all of that into a plan or strategy you can use to hold yourself accountable and make sure you're getting the outcomes that you're looking for. You at least feel prepared. So why are we here? UMBC's commitment to federal workers and contractors is why the Paws and Pivot webinar series exists. But today's session is about introducing you to a future-proof mindset for job seekers so they can navigate the upcoming job market. Because the job market of 1970, 1980, 1990, even the early 2000s is no longer here with us. We are moving into the next phase of what work is going to look like. So, the future of work by the numbers. What does that mean? By 2027, it is estimated that 44% of jobs are expected to change. 75% of companies are expected to adopt an AI model. And with all of that, only 26 or 1/4 of workers feel confident about adapting to these changes. So if you went to elementary school, when I went to elementary school or any time before that, then you know what this is an image of. There we have an abacus paired up side by side with a calculator. So much in the way that an abacus was used to count numbers and make arithmetic a bit easier, and eventually that evolved into a calculator that allowed you to do even more computational work faster and easier, and some may even argue without the critical understanding of what was taking place. It seems like we're taking a similar step with AI. Calculators are a powerful tool. An abacus was a powerful tool before the abacus existed. And if you resisted the abacus or resisted the calculator, you hindered your ability to be productive or to produce. In the same way that if you choose to do that for AI, you'll be hindering yourself or putting yourself at a disadvantage for the future of the workforce. But just like your math teachers told you, and we kind of know that's incorrect in today's world, that you wouldn't have a calculator with you everywhere you go. Well, we walk around with our smartphones, so we kind of do have access to those calculators. But for the folks who did especially well in math, or maybe those who majored in math or went out to do work that heavily relied on math, though you would use the calculator to help with the computational work, you still need to have a conceptual understanding of what formulas you should be using, which math equations make sense for the particular problem you're trying to solve. So an abacus is great. It was world-changing when it was introduced. Same for the calculator. But you still have to have the fundamental understanding of what problem do I need to point this tool at to solve. And that's much of the way I want folks to start thinking about AI. If I decided that I needed to do this presentation, I simply typed in a ChatGPT, create a PowerPoint about AI adaptability. It would produce me 4 to 6 slides. It would be black and white, unengaging, with maybe 2 sentences on them. How do I know? I tested that. So I built out my own slide deck and I asked ChatGPT to create one based on the subject matter I was covering. Completely plain, completely bland PowerPoint presentation. I can't bring that to people and expect them to engage. So in the same way that we need to understand that it's a tool, we need to understand what problems that tool can solve. And in the regards to AI, what kind of questions you need to ask to make sure you're getting the results or the outputs that you need from the tool. I'm going to take a quick pause here. In the chat, I would love for folks to just simply put, how has AI changed in your work or your daily life this year? This is just a quick check-in. I know that some folks, were furloughed, have been impacted by reductions in workforce, but, when you were in that force, when you were in a position to, interact with AI or be in a work environment, I would just love to hear how AI has changed your work in your daily life. For me, it's an awesome tool for making sure that my emails sound professional and are organized. So I'll just type out my responses, make sure I'm addressing all the questions being asked, throw it in ChatGPT, ask it to make sure that my grammar is, correct, and that I'm addressing the questions that have been asked of me, and then send that out to make sure that I don't have any of that send button regret. Early in my career, I was taught a nifty tool that in Gmail, you can have your emails delay their send by about 30 seconds so that when you send it, you have an opportunity to read it and catch any mistakes and undo the send. Well, I still keep that tool, but now I have AI as another layer to make sure that what I'm sending out reflects the professional brand that I want for myself. Coding is much easier. Yeah, I'm not a coder, so I wouldn't know, but I hear that you can use AI to build out apps. You can ask it to say, "Hey, show me how to build an app as if I am a coder," and it'll walk you through those steps. So it's a very interesting place for us to be in, where maybe we were in a world where we used to tell everyone, go get that computer science degree and make sure you have job security. And now it doesn't seem like that. But I don't know if that's necessarily the full story, but I do know it is an aspect of the way you use computer science now. Helping with grammar, love that. Yep. Feel the same way about emails. Feel like I send out so many communications. It's very easy to have a typo. You never know. You might throw in an extra space somewhere or miss a comma. What are those grammatical rules you may have learned back in elementary school, like an Oxford comma? You learned it for a ninth grade exam, but are you really incorporating it into your email? So it's kind of nice to have that as a backup to make sure that you're on your P's and Q's. All right, but I appreciate everyone sharing their interactions with AI and how it's changing. And I just want us to kind of sit with that and reflect on how the world is changing around us based on AI. Now, understanding the shift. Where are we going? We know the world of the past is no longer the world that we live in. Even with the reductions in force that we're seeing, whether that be in the federal government, or whether that be Amazon laying off 30,000 employees because they said they are looking to streamline efficiencies using AI, we know we are entering a new job force. So AI is going to transform every industry. Again, it doesn't matter if it's the Fed, doesn't matter if it's, the big tech giants, even for the most popular, not popular in regards to what people love, but the job with the most employed people in the United States is actually a truck driver. So a lot of the things that move within the continental United States are delivered by trucks. So the most populous job in the United States is a truck driver. And you would think a job like that would be isolated or separate from AI. But even that industry is being impacted as key employers there are saying, we're going to look for self-driving trucks or trucks that can aid or manage our drivers more effectively, make sure they're using the best routes, making sure they're on their P's and Q's, two hands on the wheel, not using their phone when they're driving. So even if you think my industry is completely independent from AI or completely independent from technology, every aspect, every industry is going to see some kind of change. 44% of current jobs could be automated or augmented. That sounds kind of scary, but what I will put here is that while they'll be augmented, they'll be changed, right? In the same way that teaching math was changed when the abacus was introduced, and it was changed even further when the calculator was introduced. Jobs will change because of AI. But when asked, experts say fewer than 5% of occupations are expected to be fully replaced, meaning everything that the human does in that role will be able to be done by the AI. Goldman Sachs, more recently, that 5% figures from 2023, Goldman Sachs updated their own figure to say they think 6 to 7% of jobs may be fully automated. So, it's going up. That could be a point for concern, but it is good to see that even with the most up-to-date figures, industries and economical experts still think over 90% of jobs will exist. They will just be changed, augmented by AI. One of the interesting things, especially if we're dealing with, population of folks who've been impacted by, work and workforce reductions, is OPM and GAO, the Office of Professional Management and the Government Accountability Office, have upskilling training sessions for AI. I've linked both of them in the PowerPoint. You all will get these slides at the end this webinar, and you'll be able to click through the slides and check all the links there. But they have a nice upskilling course that I think would be a really great idea for folks to check out. So thinking about how many jobs will be augmented by AI, but how many will be actually replaced means that 90% of the workforce, you start thinking about, in my current job or the job that I want, how will I be using AI? Because the world isn't necessarily set it up to completely replace me yet. And a common thing that you might hear when talking about this is AI won't replace you, a human being uses AI will. I think we have to take that a step further now. It is true the person who uses AI as a tool is going to be the most qualified professional for that job. In the same way, the accountant who uses an Excel spreadsheet is going to be the best qualified to manage your funds, is going to be the most qualified to tell you what's happening with your banking statements, right? If your accountant told you, I don't believe in calculators, I don't believe in abacus, I don't believe in Excel, PowerPoint, I do everything by hand and paper, you'd be like, you seem like you know what you're doing, but I think I'm going to take my assets elsewhere, because there's a certain level of productivity, there's a certain level of efficiency, a certain level of accuracy that comes with using these tools that go beyond the capabilities of just purely human outputs. So with the AI won't replace my job, a human who utilizes AI will, I really like to think, how can I make AI replace myself? And that sounds crazy, right? But how can I use my AI bot or my chat bot, my chat GPT, my Gemini? How can I use it to function like me? How can I have it review emails and create outputs in the way that I write emails so that it doesn't sound like people are talking to a robot? How can I use chat GPT to refine my presentations, to critique the way that I speak or critique the way that I share information or review my, notes for meetings that I'm leading? So however you can get a chatbot to more resemble you, because at the end of the day, that's what these data centers are doing. That's what these AI companies are doing. All the inputs they're getting from the 10,000 architects are asking, how do I get a blueprint for XYZ model? It's refining that. And eventually they'll have a product that says, I can be a low level, entry level architect. That's going to happen. The benefit, quote unquote, of those who've been impacted by the federal layoffs is that you all are already workers. You already have the experiences. You've already been in your industries. So you're not necessarily worried about AI being able to replace those entry level jobs. You have the advantage of being able to supplement your senior level of understanding with the productivity of an entry level job using AI. And that's what I mean by replace you. So if you know that it's coming, use that tool to further your own productivity so that you are the accountant who uses Excel spreadsheets and not the accountant who keeps track of people's 401ks on a pencil and paper. So the human advantage framework. Technology is transforming, but human skills are going to become more important. Roles that combine technical and interpersonal skills are going to grow at an unimaginable rate. The Burning Glass Institute says it's going to it's going to grow twice as fast. So future proofing is thinking about one human differentiation between you and everyone else, or you and the AI. What can you offer to your role, to your industry, to your niche that the AI cannot offer? And, we hear about interpersonal skills a lot. One of my favorite mnemonics, people love their 4 T's, their 3 R's, your 10 T's. I'm going to use one of those on you here now. So those interpersonal skills, the 4 C's: curiosity, creativity, collaboration, and compassion. I think the most important of those C's is the compassion. You've all seen enough movies, right, to know what happens when we operate on raw logic. A manager who operates on raw logic doesn't see the humanity of their direct reports, and those people are less vested in your company, less vested in your outputs. Companies that operate on raw logic and have work schedules that don't accommodate to the human beings that fill their roles will see attrition because people will leave for that work-life balance. So curiosity, creativity, collaboration, all that's very important. But the most important part of the compassion is these products, these tools, these resources, these services will most likely still be for humans. One day, right? Maybe we'll be in a world where there are AIs walking around in artificial bodies, and they'll go to movies and want services and things. But right now, the products, the services that we produce are for human beings, which means raw logic is not the proper product that those people need. They need compassion. The same way that you call into your bank and you know that the AI voice bot that picks up can help you transfer from your checkings to savings, but you don't know. There might be something going on that particular Friday that you need to talk to a person, even for 30 seconds. That is the compassion. That is the human aspect of it. But you have to be a competent human who understands the AI, how to leverage it so that you can wield your compassion and make those outputs be what the people who are using your services, using your products need. Curiosity is a push for continuous learning and adaptation. So AI is here, right? AI was here several years ago, but it's evolving. Those who are self-starters, who go out of their way to figure out how to use the different tools available to them, those people become more productive more quickly. Those people will also be less likely to be caught off guard as AI moves. So something about everything going on here is that unlike the abacus, which came out maybe thousands of years ago, and the calculator that came out in maybe 1974, right? The rate at which innovation is happening with AI is exponentially faster. So if you're keeping yourself abreast of everything that's going on, you're staying in a continuous learning mindset. When that next turn, when that next exponential growth takes place with AI, you'll be aware of it, at least be on the cusp of it, as opposed to somebody who might be completely blindsided by it. And then in that case, become a less effective worker, or perhaps be someone who suffers with the consequences of a reduction in workforce, or perhaps a reallocation of workforce. Creativity. AI is the compilation of the thoughts of millions and millions of people who have lived over thousands and thousands and millions of years, right? It knows Aristotle, it knows Einstein, but it's a compilation of things that have already been thought. If we only generate outputs of things that have already happened, we will only ever get where we've already been. So with all of those things, we need a person, a human being, to look at the information and think creatively about it, so that the outputs that we get may be the most well-rounded output that we have. We're also thinking about new ways to innovate and use that. And then collaboration. Teamwork makes the dream work, right? Just now, understand that your team not only includes your colleagues or your direct reports or supervisors, it also includes your AI assistant, right? Think of them almost like a secretary who's there to help you with tools. A very, very smart secretary. I think 10 years ago, they described AI as a very smart fifth grader. And then maybe around COVID, it was described as okay high schooler. AI is now able to get an MBA. AI successfully defended a thesis. So by the time that we are getting into our workforce and utilizing this tool, it may be just as good and just as dynamic as human thought, or even better. But we still have to leverage the advantages that we have in regard to our own creativity. And again, remembering that AI is the compilation of everything that's come before it. It is generating new responses based on previous inputs. That is something that we will always have. So we have to think about using its previous inputs. How can we generate genuinely new ideas and things? So those are the 4 C's, because I love a mnemonic. Tools for adaptability. Everybody knows ChatGPT, but I've listed here 4 tools in total that I think you should be familiar with, or at least understand. ChatGPT is great for brainstorming, writing, and research. Gemini is good for idea generation, information synthesis. A lot of you have used Gmail. It lives in your Gmail. You can even use Gemini and ask it to summarize what you've been emailing or doing for a week or for a month, so you have a better idea of what your own workload looks like, because you might be doing so much you forget that 2 weeks ago, I don't know, you cured cancer, right? So you did that and then you moved on, you did something else. But Gemini can summarize all that you've done and help make it easier for you to provide reports to anyone you're working with on what it is you're actually doing. Notion AI is good at summarizing, organizing reports and projects. So if you're dealing with very large data sets, Notion is good for putting all those places in one place, synthesizing it, and giving you an output that's easier to digest for people or stakeholders you might be working with or reporting to. And then I think what might be most relevant for anybody who's been impacted by, the layoffs is the LinkedIn AI assistant. It can help you with getting your resume situated, but I'm sure, almost all of us have interfaced with that, whether it was for ourselves or helping somebody who may have been impacted by the workforce reductions. So tools, these are tools, right? Just like a hammer, just like a pencil. just like a pen, an abacus, or a calculator. There's a tool that you need to learn how to use and be comfortable with, because that will make you the more effective employee, the more effective hire. So build fluency with these tools. Do not fear the tools. Train them to amplify your own skills, right? You might be the biggest, strongest person in your neighborhood and you can punch down a wall, but you're not going to do it faster than a hammer, right? You're not going to do it faster than a jackhammer. So use those tools to amplify the skills that you already have and the strengths that you already have. Now, this is a more contemporary example about using AI ethically. Yes, AI can answer a lot of our questions. It can write speeches. It can create PowerPoints. It can, write your PhD thesis if you really wanted to, or have it, complete your degree. It can do all of those things. And for those of us in higher education, we're trying to navigate those hurdles with our current students. But out in the real world, right, in the working world, there are still opportunities where AI can fail you, where people can make the mistake of thinking AI is infallible. AI is a tool. Tools break. Tools are sometimes constructed incorrectly. So here's an example of using AI ethically and the hidden dangers. It's awesome, again, as an assistant, as a team member, right? But you have to verify the sources. You have to validate the claims of the outputs that it's going. And if you're in any kind of, workforce industry, you're working with people, you got to make sure you're not inputting people's sensitive information, because the AI is keeping all of that, right? But what I really want to highlight here is that Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who leads our health commission, published a report earlier this year called Make America Healthy Again. In that report, that was widely believed to be generated by AI, one, because it's citations, things that folks don't, pay attention to. This is where that human aspect comes into. Many of the citations said generated by AI. Even the AI will tell you, I'm making this up. But you might not know that if you're taking everything AI gives you as infallible as law. So the New York Times wrote an article about this. They investigated that with the over 500 cited sources in the MHA report, 7 of them did not exist. Interestingly enough, Columbia University epidemiologist Catherine Keyes was credited as an author for one of the papers cited in this report. And her response was, that does not appear to be a study that exists. Never put yourself in a situation where you're walking into a boardroom, you're walking into a presentation, and you are crediting someone in that room for their fantastic work, or labor of thought or academia on something because ChatGPT told you they did it, and they're like, I never wrote that. I never did that. I have no idea what you're talking about. Thank you for thinking so highly of me, though. That's a very polite way of saying, I don't know what you're talking about. So just use that to contextualize what AI can do. It can still hallucinate. It knows that you wanted to create a report about how to get healthy. It knows certain things that you believe or you want to see highlighted. And you tell it to cite your sources. It'll say, hey, I don't have a source for this, but I know that the user wants this output. So I'm going to generate a citation. You have to be a critical thinker. You have to be someone who knows AI is a tool. AI is not thinking critically for me, and be able to assess it. That's where the leverage is going to be. That's where the reimagining yourself as an employee really takes place. Because what's going to be important for us in the future is being the person that we can trust to give AI generated outputs and say, this person is an expert and can confirm what the generative AI's output is correct, is validated, is relying on true claims, on true verifiable sources. That's where a lot of our value will come as workers in the future. So balancing humanity and technology. We've done a lot of talking about what AI can do, some of the pitfalls, some of the things that we can focus on. But what I really want folks to take away from this is technology amplifies what humans are designed to do. Like a hammer amplifies your ability to smash, or, hammer nails into a wall, or a jackhammer amplifies your ability to crack concrete. AI is a tool that's meant to amplify the strengths that you already have. Or if you don't have that strength yet, maybe it can even teach you how to develop a strength. But remember that it is a tool, and that we will need empathy and judgment and critical assessment in order to use AI efficiently. The most successful professionals will be the people who blend this all together. So AI is a tool. You be the compass, you guide it. So we've done a lot of hypothetical talking. I want to talk about action, what we can do. All right. So the future proof action plan. What can we do to make sure that we are set up for success? So as we look forward to 2026, what I want everyone in this room to do, or anyone watching this recording to do, is another mnemonic, the 3 Rs. I want you to reflect, reskill, and reinvent. I want you to assess what it is that you're doing right now, whether that's applying for new jobs or figuring out where you exist in your current role, or if it's looking back and reflecting on what you were doing in a role previously this year or last year. Reflect on what it is that you're doing. Figure out what skills are going to remain needed or current and how you can develop them. Then commit to reskilling. Focus on the in-demand skills, the skills that you know are going to persist through the future, such as analytical reasoning, adaptability, digital communication, right? Because we have all these outputs, but we need to get them to humans, and the humans who receive them need to feel like the message is for them and not just some, cold robot generated output. And then reinvent. Apply what you learn, apply these new tools to stretch projects, things that you didn't do before, but you know that you can do with the support of AI. Look for career pivots or opportunities. You have to be open to the next version of yourself, the next season of your life as a professional. So let's take a look at this as an actual example. Here we have Maria. It's a case study where I have you about a federal contract specialist who's navigating workforce changes. Let's just say Maria's been in federal government for 12 years, working as a contract specialist, supporting procurement and vendor management, right? And then workforce reduction takes place, and due to budget cuts, her position is eliminated. But she wants to remain in public service or transition into some kind of mission-driven organization, but she needs to reposition the skills that she had as a contract specialist into some kind of AI augmented job market. What does Maria need to do? She needs to reflect. She has a deep expertise of compliance. She needs to figure out how she can leverage that along with her strong stakeholder communication, because someone who works in compliance is often talking to others about being compliant, right? And then she likely has experience in managing multi-million-dollar contracts and vendors. So she has the experience and just demonstrated that she can be trusted with money, large amounts of money. And then from there, after she's done that reflection, she can move into areas of development. Maybe she's done all that in regards to compliance and strong stakeholder communication, but she knows she has areas of development in data analysis tools or using AI-driven purchasing systems, right, that are doing maybe some of the evaluations that she was doing as a contract specialist. And she perhaps maybe wants to improve digital collaboration, her presentation skills, right? So I have a sheet. It's hyperlinked here in the slide deck. It's for a pause and pivot mapping tool for future proofing. So it's going to have questions. It's going to be able to give you an opportunity to kind of list or inventory your skills, inventory your gaps, inventory what tools you might want to use, and give yourself milestones to, chase after. So let's say Maria used this tool, right? And she records these insights and she rates all of her skills. Next, she decides what skills need to be reskilled. We talked about analytical reasoning, adaptability, digital communication, data literacy. Okay. So perhaps she enrolls in a short course, or she, does an IXL course here at UMBC, or professional program at UMBC, or hops on YouTube, whatever she does. Say she focuses on data analytics for public administration and AI automation for procurement, right? There's Coursera, edX, all types of ways you can do these things. But while doing this, she's making sure that she can implement these tools for whatever niche or industry she's trying to get into. This will allow her to keep all the skills that she's already have, reskill, but then reinvent herself as an AI competent worker who can now apply AI driven procurement skills, who can now apply whatever she's maybe done in the interim, maybe perhaps working with a nonprofit while waiting to get back into the job market. All of this will allow her to pivot towards analyst roles or other opportunities where she's using all the skills that she once had, but also kind of like standing on the shoulders of AI to go even further. So on the next slide, let's just talk about it again. Reflect, reskill, reinvent. I want folks to think about that long after this session today, how can you reflect on all that you've done up until this point, reskill some fill any gaps that you know exist, and then reinvent yourself. Be open to being a new version of yourself that's leveraging these skills. You might be comfortable in what you did, for 10, 20 years with the federal government, but that world is behind us. The job market will not be that world in the years to come. So we got to think about how we can make ourselves the most qualified employees or the most qualified candidates for jobs. And I believe, this mnemonic of reflect, reskill, and reinvent, along with the 4 C's, will be something that'll allow you to do that. So bringing it home, closing reflection, right? I want you to think about how your mindset has changed today. What are some things that we talked about that you can implement for yourself? How can you become a new version of yourself, a AI enhanced version of yourself, where you're furthering what you already know with the leveraging that AI can give you? We've got the 4 C's there. We've got the 3 R's, because everybody loves a good mnemonic, right? And then think about how the tools may change, how we went from an abacus to a calculator, to your watch on your wrist being able to do all those things while you run for 2 miles, right? And play music into wireless Bluetooth headphones. Think about how the tools may change, but the human drive to learn, connect, and thrive has to remain constant. That's what pushes us into the next thing. And, I'll just be very candid. I know that it can seem scary about what is next. What is there left for folks if AI is going to be automating all of these jobs? The truck drivers aren't safe, right? What does that mean for me? And I do feel pretty strongly about those who've been impacted by the federal layoffs or the workforce reductions, you being in a better place than most, because you have years of your professional experience. Those who I'm not too sure about are those 22-year-olds, those 20-year-olds coming out of college who would usually get those entry-level jobs. AI is about as competent as a college student now, and soon it will be capable of doing those entry-level jobs. So how will those folks get those entry-level skills many of us already got in the beginning of our careers? So that's not necessarily a concern for those people in this room, but it is something to think about. And perhaps whoever can solve that problem will create a business or have a solution that makes them very wealthy in the future. Because these organizations, while AI can solve our immediate problems, you have to think about that 22-year-old who does that entry-level job eventually becomes your manager, your director, your CEO, your CFO, whoever it is. They become the integral parts of your organization that keep it running. And if we mill or call the entire entry-level part of our workforce, what does that mean in 10, 20 years? That's definitely something to think about. But I want to encourage you all to know that that's not necessarily your problem. You have those entry level skills. AI is not a senior professional yet. It is not, a CEO, CTO, district manager, regional manager, director yet. It doesn't have that competency yet. You do. So use it to do all those menial tasks that you did as an entry level employee, and use it to further the senior experience that you have. All right. Any questions, thoughts, maybe feedback? I'm okay with knowing that I've just done the most effective presentation known to mankind, and you have no questions because I answered them all. If that's the case, absolutely fine. Thank you for that, Mohammed. All right. So it's not on the screen right now, but I will share one more time for those of you who have been impacted by the workforce reduction. Here is a list of regional resources that you can use and access. Again, this will be hyperlinked in the presentation slide deck as it goes out. And then if you could, here is a QR code for the exit survey. If you could please scan that, give us some feedback on what you thought about today's session, what we can do better, maybe what subjects we can address in the future. All of that is super helpful for us for delivering a quality product to you all. And then just because we talked about, right, validating your sources, checking them out, here are the references for all of the data that's cited in this, because you can't just trust AI to generate outputs for you. You got to make sure you're still doing, your APA Chicago citation pages that we all loved from back in our early college days. So the time is now 12:40. I thank you all for being here. I genuinely appreciate you taking the time to spend your afternoons with me. Again, my name is Rex Jarrett. I'm the Director of Professional Programs here at UMBC. I will send a follow-up email with the recording of this session along with the slide deck so that you all can check out the worksheet for future proofing that I was talking about. You have an opportunity to kind of go through that. And you know what? I might even try and pull that up for you guys here. I think that could be useful to folks. So this is a um, Word document version of it that's just living on my computer. I do have a Google Doc version that I will share with all of you. You'll just make a copy and you'll be able to fill it out on your own. But what we talked about, the 3 R's, it gives you an opportunity to reflect so you can be intentional about breaking that down, what that looks like for you, giving you an opportunity to list the areas or your skill areas that you want to reskill in, why it matters to you. Got some examples for folks to go off there. Reinvent your action areas. What new skills are you going to be intentional about implementing for the new upgraded version of yourself? And there's a section 4 for a progress tracker. So just giving yourself some milestones to hold yourself accountable to for next month. I'd love for you all to start right now, but take some time, digest what happened in this session, go through it, and then just supporting your network or your support network, figuring out who you can loop into this development effort and making sure they're holding you accountable. And this reflection and celebration, making sure that we're taking the steps to appreciate what it is that we're doing. So that's the sheet there. Like I said, you all will get an actual link to the Word doc. Just make a copy. You're going to click File, Make Copy, because you only have a view access. Then you have your own copy of the document that you can edit and use as you need. But it was a pleasure. Thank you, Dana. Thank you all for being here today. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this session, and hope you all have enjoyed the rest of your day. And I hope to see you next month on Wednesday, the 13th. Bye.